This is Rick from WoodWerx.com and BullBoards.com. I just want to take a few moments to let you know what I think about Carvewright's new machine, the Raven. I've been a Carvewright customer for about 15 years now and been using the original Carvewright machine for that long. I built a sign business and run it out of a fairly small shop. Ship signs all over the world. I make signs of various sizes from relatively small to 6 to 12 feet long, 3 to 4 feet tall. The Raven is a new machine from Carvewright, and they've addressed some of the issues that the old Carvewright machine had. This Raven is very reliable. It's very accurate. It has done just about everything I've asked it to do and more. And even though this Raven will only take a board that's about 15.5 inches wide, it is accurate enough that you can create a larger sign in strips and fit them together, and they will fit together almost perfectly. Dust collection on the Raven is very good. As long as you have it connected to a good dust collector, every single one of my projects turns out relatively clean with hardly any sawdust on it at all. The Raven can do so much more than just signs though. It is accurate enough that it can actually engrave small brass nameplates as well as any other engraver I've ever seen. It can also do three-dimensional projects. Carvewright sells a rotary that will fit inside this machine, and it allows you to make all kinds of three-dimensional projects, such as chest pieces. Any other three-dimensional project that you would like to do, it can do it. You can also get all kinds of add-on software to the designer, one of which is the slicer, which means you can take a three-dimensional model and you can slice it up into carvable pieces, say 1 inch wide, carve each slice with the Carvewright, and then it will fit back together to look like one solid wood carved project. You can also buy software such as a modeler that will help you create or edit 3D models that will then fit onto your signs or your projects that can be carved into wood. The Carvewright will also cut plastic. You can cut things out of plexiglass or other types of plastic with it. So if you're in the market for a CNC, or you're just curious about how they work, if you're a hobbyist, if you're a professional sign maker, then you owe it to yourself to look into the Raven and see what it has to offer. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
So as I mentioned earlier, I want to show you Carvewright's designer software. This is Carvewright Designer 5, which is the latest version of the designer software. As I mentioned, that I believe the machine, the Raven, has many advantages over most CNC machines because it has such a smaller footprint. I believe the software also has a lot of advantages over some of the other conventional software. This particular app actually will let you get going on designing your project much faster than the other software that I have seen. I haven't seen every package that there is, but the ones that I have seen take a lot of time to set up. And this one here, you can get going pretty quickly. I want to just briefly go over kind of a high-level view of the software so that you can see what it looks like. So here I want to start with a new board. And as you can see, I can set the length, the width, the thickness. I can set the DPI for how I see it on my screen. I can set inches or centimeters. I can set it for the Raven machine or one of the old style Carvewright machines. If I'm doing a rotary carving, I can also set up all these different parameters for that carving also. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to click OK and open up a new board. Here we have the new board open. I can adjust all of the measurements right here. I can change it to centimeters. I can change everything that I set up when I initially opened the new carving. First thing I'm going to do is create a carve region. So I'm going to go in here. As you notice, you can set this for multipass, which will take less wood off and it'll go over it again as it finishes the carving, or you can set a cleaning pass so it'll go over the entire carving again and just kind of clean it up, clean up any burrs or anything that might be there. I'm going to go here with my rectangle tool. As you can see, there are a lot of different tools and a lot of different functionality here. I'm going to draw this guy here. Once that's drawn, I can right click on this and I can center it. If you look, you'll see all the different functionality that's right there in that menu that I can apply to this rectangle that I just drew. What I'm going to do is make that a carve region, which is going to sink that into the wood a little bit. I'm going to adjust that I want it 0.3 instead of 0.25. Now I'm going to take this carve region and I'm going to feather the edges to, let's say, 1/4 inch. You can feather these edges to an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, or any custom that you desire. After I've feathered the carve region, I can also apply a texture to it. So if I go here, I can open up all kinds of different surfaces, which is a button, a dome, a horizontal dome, however I like that. Say if I do the horizontal dome and I click OK, then you'll see if I spin this, you'll see how the background. So what I want to do is I'll change the lighting angle so that you can actually see how the background has an arc to it right there. So if I zoom in just a little bit, you can see how that has an arc on it. That's how that works. I'm going to go back to the front view. I'm going to go back to the textures. Open that window. I'm going to clear that selection and click OK. That'll put that carve region back to where it was in the first place. And then I'll go back in and I'll apply a texture. You've got several different textures, horizontal, vertical waves. The egg crate is nice. These bumps right here actually look really nice. Peaks, checkering 1 and 2. I can also adjust the interval here. So if I do the checkering and I set that, and it sets them exactly 1 inch apart. If I want to go back into that same setting and do the checkering again, but I want it a little bit bigger, so I go 1.5 and I click OK, then it makes it a little bit larger. In the surface application, I've also got materials over here. I can click on this and it will give me a list of materials that I can use on the carving. I can also make my own samples out of these, and I can adjust all of the parameters to make it look a little bit different. So let's say we make weathered wood. We're going to click on that. It's going to apply that surface. It takes a minute to render it. And then if I zoom in, you can see that it gives me a really nice, rough, old, weathered wood pattern on that. I'm going to go back to the front view here. And I'm going to remove that texture. Clear that selection again, click OK, and it'll take it away. Over here on the right, you'll see I have a carving list, which is a list of all of the components for my particular project. I have a pattern library that is all of the patterns that either have been supplied to me by Carvewright or that I have imported when I import, say, a 3D model, an STL file, into the system. Then I also have a tab for project libraries, which is all of the projects that I have purchased from Carvewright that have all the components already built in that I can use to make my project. I'm going to go back to my pattern library. I'm going to pick this firefighter emblem here. We'll drag it to about the center of our project. This one, the depth did not adjust very well because when I did the import, I didn't get it set correctly, but it's no problem. I can set the depth to whatever I like. I'm also going to come here and I'm going to center this both horizontally and vertically. And then I can either adjust the size down manually by dragging here, or I can adjust it here. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this down real quick to there. Even though I've got the depth and I can set it to whatever I want for this particular pattern or STL file or model, I can also adjust the height. Many times I will come over here and I will adjust to 500 or 900 height just to get all of the detail that I want out of it. Once that's applied, I can go here and I can apply a draft. I can say apply a medium draft. And once that's done, you'll see it enhances the detail of the pattern. On this particular one, I'm going to choose a large draft because I just like the way that that looks a little better. There's another feature that I really enjoy about this software is if I am simply wanting to cut this out and not have it in the middle of a sign, I can do that fairly easily with the Designer software. If I go to vectoring here, there's an outline tool. I can click that and it will apply the lines for me instead of me having to draw them. There's my lines. And if I want to, I can go here and I can apply a cut line to that. And it comes out with the cutout control box that I can tell it what bit I want to cut with. I can cut, I don't have to cut with the 1/8 inch cutting bit. I can cut with a 1/16 or a 3/16 or a 1/4 inch, whatever size I want. I can go here. This will also apply any tabs to keep the carving in place while you're cutting it out. And this will apply them for you automatically. You can set what the minimum number of tabs is, the tab spacing, the height of the tab, and you can also change the pass depth and the inset for that. I'm just going to accept the defaults here. And when it's done, I can click off of that. I could carve this and it would cut this out for me, and all I would have to do is manually cut the tabs when it's finished. Just as an additional note, the Designer software will allow you to define custom bits, so you're not limited to a certain set of bits or just the bits Carvewright sells. There's a lot of different features in this that I'm not even touching right now. You can do all kinds of vector carving with your V-groove bit. You can create a vector group. You can create a pocket region so that if you want a 5 1/4 inch circle carved into your design for whatever reason, if you're designing something for say a cup holder or something to that effect, you can do that and it'll get it absolutely perfectly right. The next tab I just want to bring up and go over real quick is the import tab. The Designer software can import an image for you, an STL file, which is a 3D model. It has a probe that you can plug into the machine. You can actually send a 3-dimensional object through the machine. It will probe it and then create a 3D model for you. You can do a tracing image. You can import a DFX file. You can use Slicer, which is the software that lets you create a fully 3-dimensional carve and cut it up into slices and carve each slice and then glue those pieces of wood together and create this 3-dimensional wood model. You can import SVGs. Here's the Sculptor software that allows you to actually edit or create 3D models. And here's a button for the CO2 Dragster application, which is for creating the Dragster Series CO2 race cars. The last thing I want to mention is right here. Right here is when you say compile your board. The system's going to render your project, and then you'll get this compile window, and you can set this up with no jig at all, which I call a sled. And this would be kind of what the sled looks like right here. Or I can select a sled, a jig. I can define whatever jig or sled that I want. I can define all these widths and lengths to tell the Raven right where it needs to start the project. And you're going to click next, and then we'll say no jig on this one. It's smart enough to come up and tell me what the original size and what the size of the wood or the size of the sign or wood plus the jig needs to be in order to run through the machine without coming up under the rollers that holds it down nice. We'll click yes there. So now we would, right here, we would choose the drive that we've got our USB or thumb drive in, and I don't have that. We can name it. We can set the quality that we want the carving to be, and we're going to choose accept, and it's going to write it to that USB drive for us. The last feature I want to mention on this is right here. If I click here on the menu, I can go down here, and now it has the capability of compiling my project in G-code, which will run on, as I understand it, just about any other CNC machine. So even if you have a different type of CNC already, and you are impressed, as I am, by the Designer 5 software, you can actually buy the software from Carvewright, which means you can get going on your projects much faster. It's pretty easy to learn and to start going on your projects and getting them done. And then you can compile that into G-code, and you can run that on your CNC machine as well. So that kind of ends what I was wanting to show you on the Designer. I'm pretty impressed. It's a very nice application, and it's very easy to use. So if you are in the same way as if you're in the market for a CNC, you owe it to yourself to look at the Raven. You also owe it to yourself to look at this Designer software and see how easy it is and see all the different functionality that it has, which I don't know of any functionality that this doesn't have that some other software does. It is extremely affordable. The way they do the licensing is very flexible. You can have it running for the price of the software. You can have it running on 2 different machines at once. But if you have a third machine that you need to use the software on, all you have to do is go to one of the other machines, release the license, and you can load it up on the other machine. So you can actually have the software loaded on several different machines, just as long as you don't have it activated on any more than 2 machines at one time. And it's very easy to release the license and reload that license on a different machine. So they have a lot of advantages, and I hope that the video has really helped you all. I'm going to finish up by showing some pictures of some of the work that I've done over the years, and hopefully that will inspire you to take a look at this machine and give it the recognition that it is due. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it's helped out.